Scientist Radio. So the G8, Berlusconi complains to Obama that the judges are attempting to stage a coup. And Obama would have to say, yes, I read about it every day in my CIA report. They tell me how they're doing. There is going to be an election in Milan in the next couple of days. The candidate there, the neo-communists are supporting a guy called Pisapia. And Pisapia, according to Berlusconi, is De Benedetti's lawyer, De Benedetti being the Italian version of Soros. So the great mass line of what remains of the Italian Communist Party is telling you vote for the local equivalent of Soros and his candidates. What bankruptcy? And this will feed into a warning I want to issue later on. The Second International, dear friends, is a hopeless case, and that goes from Zapatero to Socrates to this Papandreou and the one in Iceland and all the rest of them. The Second International is an absolute disaster, and if you want to get anywhere, you've got to somehow get outside of their control, put it that way. The other thing on display is the Scottish secessionism. And remember, secessionism is not a revolt against the excesses of finance capital or the Anglo-American Empire. It is precisely the counterinsurgency strategy of that empire. The entire Anglo-American method these days is to break up existing countries and reduce them to pathetic, impotent, squabbling, inconsequential little rump states. That is what was done to the Soviet Union to a significant degree. It was done to Czechoslovakia. It was done to Yugoslavia. We're hearing about that again now. It was then done to Serbia. Not enough just to do it to Yugoslavia, but then again to Serbia with this Kosovo monstrosity under a criminal syndicate. It is being done to the Sudan, done to Iraq, done to Yemen, and so on down the line. You get the idea. So the British oligarchs, cynical as they are, they often use their own country as a display window for export products. They did this with Thatcher, right? Thatcher's insanity had to be exported to the U.S., to the IMF, across Europe, and so forth. So they obviously they wanted it for themselves, but they also wanted to show as a kind of test case pilot project to get that going worldwide, and it worked. And Reagan was one of the results of the Thatcher experiment in Britain, a disaster, right? An absolute reactionary nightmare by Thatcher Milk Snatcher. So that's what they're doing. They're saying we'll show you what you do for counterinsurgency. You break up your nation state, and anybody who falls for this again needs to have their head examined, right? They've got to basically get some get a quick check from a shrink. All right, now the assault on Europe, of which this is a part, given the Strauss-Kahn events, the ouster of Strauss-Kahn now from the IMF, one of the main lines of defense around the euro has been broken up, and we've now got Lagarde, the French woman, the French finance minister, burdened by scandals as she is, yoga practitioner as we're told she is. She'll have to be a contortionist to get through what awaits her now. Obviously not inspiring very much confidence because of her obvious subservience to Anglo-Saxon soft power. But the problem now is, it looks to me like we're on the verge of a general assault on Europe, and this includes an attack on the euro. And I want to talk to people once again about this attack on the euro and how petty bourgeois opportunism will not get us anywhere in this particular case. Therefore, I think the European crisis is about to blow. We are 1 year after the May 10th flash crash, and I mention this to remind you that starting in November, December of 2009 already, given the fact that the Federal Reserve had been pumping out dollars at such a rate, there was an obvious threat of a collapse of the dollar. You could see that in the late summer of 2009. The dollar was beginning to go down. So the only way to counter that from the Anglo-American point of view is not to undertake recovery and 30 million jobs and related reforms. No. It is to attack the euro and make the euro look worse. So that was what was going on with this famous idea dinner at Moness, Crespi, and Hart. You can read all about that at tarpley.net. If you haven't caught up with it, a speculative attack using credit default swaps and picking the government bond markets of these smaller Euroland countries as the obvious chink in the armor. You can't go straight up against $1 trillion of euros per day, but you can easily use CDS, credit default swaps, to attack the Greek bonds, the Spanish bonds, the Portuguese bonds, the Irish bonds, and so on down the line. Now, this has been going on. It's had its ups and downs. The dollar remains very, very weak. But what you now have looks to me like the attack is being joined not just by the hedge funds and the zombie banks. The hedge fund hyenas and the zombie banks are attacking with credit default swaps, but you now have these rating agencies signaling a general attack on the euro, and that would be Standard & Poor's attacking Italy, downgrading them. Fitch, I believe, has downgraded Belgium, and there may be other actions by these groups. I'm not trying to give you the full picture, but you get the idea. Remember, those guys should be in jail. S&P should not be judging countries. They should be trembling in the dock to hear their sentence. Same thing for Fitch, same thing for Moody's. These are the people who were telling you, AIG, wonderful, solvent, buy it. They were telling you, Goldman Sachs, Abacus, Timberwolf, great, buy it, AAA, AAA, AAA plus, and on and on and on. So these people needed to be indicted. They still need to be indicted. But rather, what we have is they are now leading the charge against the nation states. It confirms my dictum. Either the nation states put the speculators and their agents in jail, or the speculators, the zombie banks, the hedge fund hyenas will destroy the national state. So choose. I'm on the side of the national state. Let me make it clear. The speculators go to jail. That's the necessity of world civilization. So we have attacks on Greece. Greece seems to be under imminent threat of being frozen out of these bond markets. Portugal under attack. Ireland under heavy attack. Spain now coming under attack. And even beyond those, we're hearing from Europe this week, the S&P attack on Italy has started the tremors there, and even Belgium after that. Now, look, dear friends, Greece, Portugal, Ireland, Spain, Italy, Belgium, this is a significant part of the Euroland 17. It's about a third of it by now, huh? So this is a general European crisis. It is a world economic depression. You'll remember that in the last time around, as we've said many times, November 1929 New York crash, but then in 1931, with the Austrian Kreditanstalt in May, and then the German banking crisis in July, and the British pound going bust in September 1931, it then migrated to Europe, and that's what's happening. It's happening in a somewhat slower rate. The European crisis is now stretched from late 2009 or early 2010 into 2011, so it's been going for a year and a half. Not that much different, but this is what it is. It's a world depression. Now, the question is, what are you going to do about it? The other thing that comes in is the U.S. debt limit, right? The lunatics in this Tea Party caucus, Senator Lee, Senator DeMint, fresh from his latest meeting with the Koch brothers, I'm sure, with his pockets bulging with contributions, the rest of these Tea Party guys, plus a general mood in the ruling elite. Austerity psychosis is blinding them. The austerity psychosis is blinding characters like Bill Clinton, who says, a little default wouldn't be bad for a couple of days. Don't worry about that. Yeah, I'm sorry, Bill. It would be a world panic. It will bring down your entire system of privately controlled central banks and zombie banks and hedge funds. We got to be ready for that, but it's better not to do it this way. We'll be back in a minute.